Today, we have a very special guest, Sachin Patel. He's the founder of Living Proof Institute. And Sachin is a father, a husband, a philanthropist, functional medicine practice success coach. He's a speaker, author, and a plant medicine advocate. Sachin is convinced that the doctor of the future is really the patient, and he has committed himself to helping others raise their consciousness, activate their inner doctor, and initiate their deepest healing through the use of lifestyle, breathwork, and respectful utilization of natural medicine. Sachin founded the Living Proof Institute, through which he pioneered the revolutionary approach to patient-centered healthcare. Sachin coaches hundreds of practitioners around the world so that they are empowered to deliver affordable and inspired care to their community through his Perfect Practice Mentorship Program. He is an advocate of transforming the healthcare paradigm, and he has devoted his life to the betterment of healthcare for both patients and practitioners. Sachin, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited for the conversation we have today.
Well, Adam, thank you. It's so nice to see you again, and I'm looking forward to our dialogue as well.
So tell our audience a little bit about your journey and how you got here today.
Sure. Well, I'll go back to where my life really shifted gears for me, and then I think that was an important fork in the road. So I'm trained originally as a chiropractor. And as a chiropractor, we've always had a really deep understanding of the body, but also an awareness that there's something called innate intelligence. We refer to it as this innate wisdom that our body has that, governs its function. And so a couple of years into practice, I was working with Olympic athletes and marathon runners, really elite level, high performance individuals who were breaking down their bodies because they were so active. And so I had a couple of Olympic athletes, I had professional athletes coming to see me. And one day we had a lady named Connie that came to see us, and she had chronic elbow pain, had seen a surgeon, had been to physiotherapy, nothing seemed to be working for her. And we were able to use our special soft tissue technique and resolve her pain. And so that resulted in her contacting the news, and the news did a story on us and really our practice. But my boss at the time, who they wanted to interview, said no. And the reason for that was because she had frozen on live television. So she didn't want that to happen again. And she was prone to a little bit of panic attacks and anxiety. So she said, "Hey, Sachin, you do this." And I said, "Okay, like who doesn't want to be on TV and who doesn't want to be featured on the news?" So they came and they interviewed me, and we shared the story and we shared the journey. And then a few months later, they aired the story, and the phone would not stop ringing. So we had people calling, making appointments, wanting to come see us. And so here I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have all these athletes coming in and people with elbow injuries and stuff like that coming in. We got this. We have amazing tools and resources. And I felt confident that we could help these people until they started coming in. People came in with walkers. People came in, needing someone to help them get into the office because they were just crippled and riddled with pain and dysfunction in their body. So they had, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. One guy was taking 16 Tylenol per day for 10 straight years for his headaches. And just people that were not athletes by any means, people that were not coming in with repetitive strain and soft tissue or athletic injuries. They were coming in because they were essentially trying to be poisoned back to health, which doesn't work. But I didn't really have a solution for them because at that time I was focused on soft tissue injuries. And so I had to essentially turn so many people away. And that's a gutting feeling because I also didn't know where to refer them. So if somebody comes to me and I can't help them, that's fine. I can refer them somewhere else and at least they get their answers. But these people had tried everything. They had seen every specialist, tried every medication, and nothing was working for them. So they were kind of refugees of the medical system, so to speak, but still looking for answers. And, so I did some soul searching and I started realizing there's a reason this happened. I couldn't figure that out at this time. Like, why are all these people coming here? What am I supposed to learn from this? And around the same time, thank God for spam emails, I was getting emails from another doctor named Ron Grisanti. And somehow I must have gotten on his list, or maybe he bought the list of chiropractors in Ohio and was messaging people. And he started presenting case studies that were very similar to the people that I was turning away. And so I'm like, wow, this is interesting. And I kept reading all the emails and opening them up and be like, wow, this is amazing. He has an answer when nobody else can find answers for these people. And I said, this might be worthwhile for me to learn for myself personally, because it could be any one of us that ends up in that situation if we don't know how to take care of ourselves, or maybe a family member that I could help. And if that's the worst case scenario, this is worth 10 times more than what I'm paying for it. So I took the training, and the first thing they have you do is fill out a form. Filled out that form, and I realized that I was checking off boxes. Meanwhile, I thought I was pretty healthy. And it turns out that a lot of the things that, I was attributing to being an active, physical practitioner, working out. At that time I wasn't married, so going out probably a lot more than I do now, and late nights and all that good stuff. So I just thought that that was a part of life and I had to live with it. But then I started realizing after filling out that form that I was connecting the dots and realizing that there's something deeper going on inside me. And so I followed the recommendations that I got and learned from the training that I took: cut out gluten, cut out dairy, really fixed up my digestive issues. So I was eating healthy, relatively healthy, but I was eating some things that you couldn't pay me to eat now. So I was eating like fake animal proteins. As a vegetarian, I'm still am, and I was also eating a lot of soy, and consuming protein shakes and things like that, like with artificial sweeteners, just because that's what people did back in the day, right? And I almost throw up in my mouth thinking that I was doing that to myself, but I didn't know any better. And I started realizing that these things were actually contributing to my joint pain, contributing to my GI issues, contributing to why no matter how much I slept, I would still kind of wake up tired and just brush it off and think, oh, I'm active, I'm busy. And you wouldn't look at me and think that I was unwell. So, I was, kind of looked okay on the outside, but then struggling, if you will, on the inside. And then I followed these recommendations, and boom, these things started clearing up completely. And I was like, wow, this is powerful. So I started sharing that same form with my chiropractic patients. And then I started realizing, oh my God, these people have so many issues that they've never brought up to me, because they thought I was a back pain or a neck pain or a joint pain or muscle pain type of specialist. They didn't tell me about their chronic, GI issues or their heart palpitations, or, some of the thyroid problems that they have, or they're losing their hair, whatever the case may be. They weren't telling me these things because that's not why they came to see me. And so I started interpreting these forms and realizing, wow, like there's so many people that I can help that are coming in to see me. And that's when I started implementing functional medicine. So long story short, I started with me, started using it on my clients, but then my boss at the time didn't want anything to do with it. She wanted to stay focused on soft tissue injuries, which I totally respect. As a business owner now, I understand your business has to be laser focused on one thing. It can't be all over the place. But I was supposed to take over her practice. So there had to be this fork in the road where we had to kind of split ways, and no harm, no foul. It just wasn't the right fit for me anymore. I don't want to say outgrown, but I've decided to go in a different direction with my career. Started working for somebody else at the time, and helped them grow two of their biggest practices. And then they grew too quickly, were undercapitalized, and then weren't able to pay me about $60,000 that they owed me. So had to then walk away from that position, literally had to walk away from the money because they didn't have it. They were undercapitalized and they grew too fast. And then when I started my business, I said, I'm never going to do this to somebody else. So I reverse engineered all the errors and mistakes that they made, and then built my business literally from scratch. We've been profitable every single month for the last 10 years. We actually tomorrow celebrate our 10th year anniversary. And my wife is involved in the business. We've got a growing team of almost 20 people now. I coach several hundred practitioners all over the world. We developed a form of healthcare that's focused on health creation instead of disease prevention. So think of it this way, right? If you're married, then you don't treat your wife or spouse nicely because you're trying to prevent a divorce, right? Some people do, and that usually fails. You treat them nicely because you're trying to create a beautiful relationship with them. You don't run a business and say, hey, what's your anti-bankruptcy plan, right? You run a business and say, hey, here's our marketing plan. Here's our sales plan. Here's our revenue trajectories. And you actually build something. But when it comes to health, everyone has a preventive strategy. and there's over 10,000 different diagnosable diseases. How many are you going to try to prevent, right? Instead, the smart thing to do is to create health from the inside out and from the outside in. And that becomes your primary focus, not just after you get cancer, not after you get diabetes, not after you get an autoimmune condition, but that becomes a way of life from the very beginning of your life. And having had my son, who's 11 now, I realize the power of knowing this information from the very beginning. So my son does not have a pediatrician. Okay. He's never needed one. He went to the doctor a couple of times, one because he fell off his skateboard and sliced his eye open. So he had to get stitches. And another time, funny story, I was down in Texas speaking at a conference, and my wife was unpacking our furniture, and a piece of styrofoam somehow got sucked into his nose and was stuck there. So he had to go to the emergency room to try to get it out. Now imagine a 3-year-old and try to put some pliers up his nose and try to get the piece of styrofoam out. And I told my wife, don't worry about it, it'll come out. And he sneezed the next day and it came out. So those are the 2 times he's been to the doctor. But imagine that, what's possible, right? I personally haven't seen a doctor in over a decade. I haven't been sick. I've only missed 1 day of work in 16 years of being in practice. I run 3 businesses. And so it's not like I'm just sitting around on the beach, so there's a strategy that I know works. There's a formula that I know works to optimize human health and performance. I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but I know the formula, and I know how much and when I deviate from that formula. And then I can then put the blame, or I can put the effort in the right things, on the right things, right? So sometimes people are, and this happens a lot in a functional medicine type of clinic, where people come to us and they say, well, I want all the tests and I'll take whatever supplements you tell me. And I said, it's not about that. It's about, will you do what I tell you to do? It's not about what you take, it's about what you do. And, most people have health issues because they have a behavioral problem, not because they have a medical problem. So it really takes behavior change to then, basically you're loving yourself back to life is what we teach people how to do. People come to us loving themselves to death. We teach them how to love themselves back to life. And we teach them, here's a formula. Here's the dance that you need to do with life in order to get the best possible outcomes, regardless of whatever your circumstances are. Here's a dance you need to do with the sun. Here's a dance you need to do with Mother Nature. Here's a dance you need to do with your food. Here's a dance you need to do with your thoughts. Here's a dance you need to do with your physical body and your movement. So we teach people exactly what that formula is. And then we also monitor them too. So I have a ring that I wear. I don't know if you've heard of this, Adam. It's called an Aura ring. Maybe you have. And this is basically a life tracker. So it tracks my sleep, it tracks my wake, it tracks my deep sleep, my REM sleep, my resting heart rate, my resting HRV, how many breaths I take per minute while I'm sleeping, my body temperature. So this tracks all of that behavior and allows me to become self-cognizant and self-aware. So I'm not waiting in between 6 months or a year if I'm lucky when I see my doctor and get blood work done, which I don't because I don't have a doctor. But imagine that I'd only have 2 pieces of information, January 1st and 2020 and January 1st, 2021. I'd have 2 points to compare to, which doesn't tell me the whole story or the whole dance in between, right? So having something like this, I get, every day I get 10 critical markers to my health, and I get to monitor those and plot those out every single day. So now what this does is it allows us individually, thanks to technology, thanks to how simple being healthy can be, and knowing exactly what the right inputs are, you can become your own best doctor. So our mantra in our clinic is that the doctor of the future is the patient. So it used to be that doctors had very specialized knowledge because they went to medical school, and there was exclusive textbooks and books and only information that they would have access to. Now that information is available to anyone in the world who wants it, right? In fact, there's more information available for free, right, than there ever has been than before. But information isn't the answer, right? If it was, as you probably know, if information was the answer, everyone would be rich. There'd be no divorces, right? There'd be no war, and everyone would be perfectly healthy, right? If information was the answer. Behavior is the answer, and belief is the answer. So that's what we help shift with our clients. And what we see are transformational results in a very short period of time. because one of the beliefs people have is they believe that they're fighting their body and their body's fighting back. Well, the body doesn't fight back, right? You tell the body what to do. It's like a car. Tell it what to do. You give it the right input. If I put my foot on the brake, then the car is going to slow down. If I put my foot on the accelerator, the car is going to speed up. Your body's the same way. You just have to know where the accelerator and the brake are. You have to know what buttons to push and what buttons not to push in order to get a highly predictable outcome. I'll give you an example. My wife, she hates when I rev my engine. Okay, so I've got I've got like a G35 coupe that's all done up, and I've got like a specialty exhaust and everything on it. And when I go through an underpass, I like to gas it, right? Because you hear that rumble. It sounds so immature, but this is the stuff guys do, right? Yeah. So she's like, "Why do you do that? I just find it so annoying." And part of me as an instigator loves that it annoys her, so I do it even more, of course, right? So she's like, "Why do you do that?" And I said, "You know what? I do that because it doesn't talk back to me. It doesn't argue with me. It's predictable every single time. I know exactly how it's going to sound. I know exactly how fast I'm going to get to go. And I know exactly when I need to hit the brakes to stop and everything." So a car is a way for us to feel like we're in control. I know what buttons to push. I know what buttons not to push. I have a relationship with it, so to speak. And our body can be the same way, right? Most people are asleep at the wheel. And when the car crashes, they feel like it's something else that they have to blame. It's their genetics, right? Or it's this, or it's that, or this is the way it has to be. It doesn't have to be that way. We are the masters of this cosmos that we are in possession of, right? We are in control of every single one of the 70 trillion cells in our body. And that's a belief system, right? The other belief system is that you're not in control. And everything that happens inside you is random chance, right? And you have absolutely no control over the direction your health or your body goes in. And that's a belief system. And people who believe in that system or have that belief system will always seek outside of them for answers. They will always look outside for a solution because they've already convinced themselves that they're not the solution. And what better place to hide the solution than inside of you, where we can convince you from the moment you're born that you are broken and that there's something wrong with you and you need to take this and you need to take that. And if you don't do this, you're going to die. Well, I don't believe in that, right? And, for those that do, I respect your beliefs, but that's going to take you down a certain path. A belief in yourself that everything emerges from within. Imagine how ridiculous it would be, Adam, if you saw somebody standing by a tree and picking up leaves off the ground and try to glue them back on the tree, right? And you walked by and you said, "What are you trying to do?" "Well, the leaves are falling off, so I'm trying to make the tree healthy and glue the leaves back on." Right. So it appears, and even if you were really good at that, the leaves would wither and die within a couple of hours or days anyways, right? So it's temporary even if you do that. However, if you realize that the leaves grow from inside, and what we should be asking, if the leaves are falling off the tree, why is that happening from the inside? Does it need more water? Is the soil poisoned, right? Is the water getting up to where it needs to? Is the tree damaged somewhere so the water can't get up to the leaves? What's going on that's causing this? Is there an infection? Is there a bug that's damaging the tree? What's going on here? You would ask those questions, right? It would be the equivalent. What we do in healthcare is the equivalent to painting your grass green.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing. This gives us a really nice overview and understanding. So a lot of people kind of dovetailing in what you say, they think about life as a crisis management. I call it crisis management, right? Where after something happens, then that's the implication of that. I have to take care of myself better, whether it's health or finances or the business. I mean, this is why we have a show. It's called Uplifters, right? It's like people that are dealing with crises, how do they uplift from there? But ideally, right, the proactivity and the way that we handle things before it happens, so we could be healthy from the get-go, from the start, right? So how does one change their relationship with the understanding that nothing bad has to happen for me to take action, right? Because it's a fundamental belief in understanding that, if I manage my life in this way, whether it's health or business or money, but health is number one, right? Whether it's emotional health, mental health, physical health. How does one get to that realization, and what's practical things that they can do to manage a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, it's those are, I'm going to break that up into a series of answers. So those are great questions. So first and foremost, I think, it all starts with our belief system and our mindset. So we have to realize that the most powerful tool that we have is our mind. The most valuable tool is also our mind. That's why companies spend literally billions and billions of dollars trying to get up here, right? To not to help you, but to change the way you think and what you think. And if they can make you think that what they have to offer you is valuable, then you will value it. Okay. So we've been conditioned to think from the very beginning that we are not whole, that we are broken, and that the solutions are outside of us. And so we have to start reframing the way we look at that perspective and start realizing that we are in control. And the analogy I want to give people is, imagine you bought a Porsche. So if you bought a Porsche, you could take that brand new car and you can take it to a tuner who can add a new exhaust, who can add a cold air intake, who can upgrade the suspension, right? And do all these things to it and make that car faster and better than it was when you bought it, right? So that's a tuner. So that's somebody who's looking for more performance. So if you want more out of life, then you have to know there's another level that you can operate at. And I'll give you a good analogy in just a second with the tree. The second person you can go to is you can crash that car into a wall because you don't know how to drive or you don't follow the rules of the road. And then you go to a mechanic to fix it. And you're lucky if they can get it anywhere close to the condition it was when it was brand new. Okay, so the question is, what are you fighting for? What I realized is that regardless of what happens, healthier people respond better to drugs and more predictably if they're getting surgeries. So I don't know, anything could happen at any time, right? But if I'm in my peak state of health, I'm giving my body the the best opportunity for it to heal and to serve me. But if I'm diabetic or I have chronic inflammation, I haven't been looking after myself, and I get myself into a sticky situation, like many people might be in right now with everything that's going on in the world. The number one cause of hospitalizations is hypertension. So that's, we get people off their blood pressure medications in 3 days that have been on it their entire adult life. So without even trying to, right? It just happens as a side effect of them getting healthy. So we have to really go back to that belief. And what we try to do is we try to give people very simple, strategic changes that they can make immediately. It used to be before, Adam, that somebody would come to us, we'd order advanced laboratory testing. They'd have to pee in a cup, they'd have to poop in a cup, they'd have to get blood draws done. And then we'd wait a few weeks and get the results back. They'd come in and then we would make, specific recommendations to them. What I realized and what I learned over the years is I can get that person feeling better within 3 days if they're just willing to listen to what I tell them to do. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things, 7 things that we can do to improve their health. And each one of these could be an entire podcast. So I'll keep it brief just for the interest of your time as well. So number 1 is a reconnection with nature. And the way we do this is by actually resetting our circadian rhythm. Every single animal, every single bug, every single plant on the entire planet aligns its biology with the rising and setting of the sun. Every single one. Okay. Human beings are the only ones that created artificial lights. And so that has become extremely disruptive to our circadian rhythm. This is why people have insomnia. This is why people have cancer. Believe it or not, artificial light reduces melatonin production by 40%. Melatonin is our most potent anti-cancer hormone that we make. And we only make it when we're in the presence of complete darkness, which would have been the natural state of human function until they developed light bulbs. So one of the first things we tell our clients to do is reset your biology with the rising and setting of the sun. in the morning, spend 10 minutes outside. You can be checking your phone and your email. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you for that. In fact, I did all my calls outside today without a shirt on. And I was squatting in the grass, walking in the grass, because all of that is sending light information to my body, and it's sending a message to my brain as to what time of day is it right now. That coordinates the function of all of our hormones. So if your circadian rhythm is off, you'll never get healthy. I don't care how many supplements you take. I don't care how much you work out. I don't care what your diet is like. Light is information for your brain, just like food is information for your immune system. So we need proper light information coming in. We spend more time on computers. We spend more time in front of our screens. We spend more time in artificial lighting. Now, the position of lighting is also very important. So in the morning, when you wake up, the sun is just a little bit above the horizon. So the light is hitting the back of our retina. Okay. And the color temperature of the lighting, I won't get too technical, but the light is more in the red, orange type of range, right? When you see the sun setting and rising, it's kind of oranges. It's not bright yellow or full spectrum like you see it in the middle of the day. So that sends a message to our brain based on the part of the retina that's being hit with the light, what time of day it is. In the middle of the day, the light's coming straight down. So the light's hitting the bottom of our retina, telling our brain to make serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone. And serotonin later in the evening turns into melatonin. So you can only make your melatonin if you have enough serotonin. So midday sunlight is very important at signaling our brain as to what time of day it is. And then in the evening, when the sun goes down, we suggest that people turn off all overhead lighting. Overhead lighting hits the bottom of the retina. Your brain thinks it's still noon, so it's making the hormones that it should be making at noon. So it's no wonder people have a hard time falling asleep. So what we tell people to do is turn off all the overhead lighting, get specialty red bulbs. And these red bulbs, we want them to put them on the ground on a small lamp or something, so the light hits the top of the retina. And so what that's going to do is when we have red light hitting the top of the retina, it's going to increase our ability to make melatonin. It's not going to disrupt our melatonin production, but it allows us to function in our home. So those are workarounds for people, right? We suggest if you're serious, we turn off the screens as much as we can. Again, I'm not perfect, so I have glasses that I wear so that if I do want to watch something and it's after dark, then I put on these glasses and that blocks some of the blue light or all the blue light that would be hitting my eyes. Okay, so lighting information is the first thing. The next thing we want people to do is focus on their sleep. And when you get the light information right, then the sleep is automatic. So if your sleep sucks, anyone who's listening to this, you don't have a sleep problem, you have a lighting problem. Okay. So you fix the lighting and the sleep becomes automatic. If you fix the sleep without fixing the lighting, you're always going to be chasing, how do I sleep better? What pills do I take? What do I do? You're always going to be losing that battle. Okay. Because light is much more powerful at signaling that than anything else. When so we want to focus on sleep. So sleep should be consistent, same sleep and wake schedule every day, not trying to catch up on Saturdays. That screws you up. A ring like this is a powerful way to let you know how well you're sleeping. And that way you can track, you can gamify the process. I find gamification is really helpful. Just like your bank account, right? If you're investing, you probably don't want to know like once a year how much money's in the account. You might want to check it every morning and be like, oh, okay, this is how I'm doing, right? So think of yourself as a stock. If you were a ticker symbol YOU, then what would that stock value be today? How hard are you going to push yourself, right? Are you in the reserves or are you ready to, go full steam ahead today? Knowing that helps you make micro adjustments each day. So now you feel like you're in control. Hey, I didn't go to bed on time. Cool. I'm in control of that. I can go to bed a little bit earlier today, right? Hey, I'm waking up too early. Okay, cool. Let me make these modifications and I can do that. So that's two things, right? The third thing is breathing. Most people, the only time they pay attention to their breath, or anyone does, is when they're born and when they die. Right? People will say, is he still breathing? Right? Did they
Right.
did they take their first breath? Right? Those are the questions that people ask. And then nowhere in between does anyone ask, are you breathing correctly? However, if you breathe correctly, you start activating all the healing centers in your body. So in our body, we have a nerve called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is cranial nerve number 10. It starts in the brainstem and it wraps around all of your organs. So if I were to look at an image of the vagus nerve, I would see it wraps around my heart, it wraps around my lungs, wraps around my diaphragm, wraps around my liver, my kidneys, my digestive organs, my reproductive organs, all of the places that need healing, right? When people come to us, they don't say I have finger cancer. They say I have liver cancer, or I have heart disease, or I have diabetes. So the vagus nerve controls the function of all of these organs. If I stimulate the vagus nerve, I can slow down your heart predictably 100% of the time. The most powerful way to stimulate the vagus nerve is through your breathing. So let me tell you the benefits that happen when your vagus nerve is properly stimulated. Then I'll give people a few ways to improve their breathing. So when your vagus nerve is properly activated and functioning, you have a low heart rate. You have a steady, low heart rate. Your breathing is normal. You're not hyperventilating. You're able to take nice, deep breaths. Your liver is functioning better. Your kidneys are functioning better. Blood is going to your digestive system to digest the meal that you may have had earlier or just right now in this moment. Your reproductive health is better. Your cell-mediated immune system functions better. Your blood sugar stays stable. Blood is going to the neocortex, which is the creative and human part of your brain, instead of going to your reptilian brain, which is the animal part of your brain. So you actually have better creativity, better thinking, better problem solving. This is the stuff everyone wants, right? You have better reproductive health. So one nerve is responsible for activating every single organ's healing mechanism. So how cool would it be to stimulate that nerve?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's for everybody. It's for high performers who are looking to optimize. It's for individuals who are looking to raise the bar and lift themselves from where they are today and to the next level.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how to stimulate that nerve,
Sure.
because most people are never taught this. So a few ways, and some of these sound strange, but they work. Okay. So one way is to scrape your tongue. So in the morning, you can buy a tongue scraper. And what you want to do is you want to scrape your tongue. You're going to scrape off whatever gunk is on it. And then when you're done, you're just going to gently gag yourself 2 to 3 times. That stimulates your vagus nerve. Okay, so just make sure you haven't eaten anything. The idea here isn't to throw up. It's to just gently stimulate your diaphragm and get it to contract forcefully, which is what happens when you feel like you're gagging yourself. Okay, that's one way. Another way is to stimulate your vagus nerve by gargling. So you're going to put some water in your mouth and you're going to gargle the alphabet 2 times. And you're doing it right is when you start tearing up. So the vagus nerve attaches to the brainstem right next to the part of the brainstem that's responsible for tearing. So this is why when we laugh, we cry. When we gag, we cry. And if we gargle strong enough, we'll also start tearing up, because that's where the nerve attaches, right next to that part of the brainstem. So that's how we know we're doing it right. Another way is by humming. Another way is by chanting. Another way is by talking, because mechanically you create vibration that stimulates that nerve. Okay. And then the other way, my favorite way, the easiest way, is by deep diaphragmatic breathing. So deep diaphragmatic breathing is taking deep breaths in and out through your nose. Most people breathe through their mouths. About half the people in the world breathe through their mouth instead of through their nose. Your nose is an intake, your mouth is an exhaust. So you should almost never be breathing through your mouth unless you just absolutely can't breathe through your nose. But breathing through your nose is going to pressurize the air. It's going to cleanse the air. It's going to moisturize the air. It's going to recapture the water that you would normally be exhaling through your mouth. So it's going to decrease dehydration and things like that. It's going to lower your blood pressure, increase nitric oxide production, and a variety of other things are going to happen. So breathing through your nose is something that you want to do. One way to stimulate that is keep your tongue at the top of your mouth, just behind the front of your teeth. That's the relaxed position you want your jaw in, and then you're breathing in and out through your nose. Okay. You breathe in all the way down, deep belly breath, and then you can let it all the way out through your mouth, or you can let it all the way out through your nose. So when you're blowing the air out, ideally through your nose, but the mouth is okay. You never want to, as much as possible, breathe in through your mouth. Your mouth is the dirtiest part of your body. So you actually create more stress on your immune system breathing through your mouth. When you breathe through your mouth, you don't pressurize the air. That's why there's no resistance when you breathe through your mouth, because the air isn't being pressurized. When you breathe through your nose, the reason you feel resistance is because the turbinates in the nose are adding pressure to the air so you can take a deeper breath. So there's an anatomical reason for that. The physics behind it are quite remarkable. So deep breathing, you can do this in the car, you can do it on a Zoom meeting, you can do it, while you're watching TV. It's just bringing consciousness and awareness to the breath. And when you do that, you're immediately going to start seeing shifts in your body. So I always tell people, listen, if you want to feel better in 30 days, change your diet. If you want to feel better in a week, drink more water. If you want to feel better in 5 minutes, learn how to breathe properly. So one other tip to get people to breathe better, since we spend about a third of our life in bed, is to put a little piece of tape over their lips, just like this. You can get something called 3M micropore tape, and that will cause you to breathe through your nose instead of breathing through your mouth at night. And watch what happens. You're going to wake up more refreshed. You're going to have dreams like you've never had before. You're going to feel less brain fog. You're going to feel, you're going to feel like you need less sleep as well. That's the other thing, is like people who went from needing 8 hours now might only need 7.5 or 7 hours of sleep, because they're recovering faster because they're breathing more correctly.
Wow. Sachin, tell us a little bit about the 5 freedoms.
Sure. So there's 5 freedoms that I try to build my life off of and teach my clients how to build their life off of. The first one is physical health. The second one is emotional health. The third one is time freedom. The fourth one is geographic freedom. And the fifth one is financial freedom. And I feel like the order of that is really important, because I know at a time in my life, I was pursuing financial freedom at the expense of the other 4 freedoms. And then I had to kind of rework my lifestyle and kind of rework my priorities and put those other 4 at the top, because anyone can make $1 million, right? Like I truly believe that anyone's capable of that. And nobody's going to write an article about you or care about how you did it. Maybe they will. But what's really far more valuable to me is the ability to have that plus those freedoms, right? Like the freedom today, like literally walking barefoot in my grass for 2 hours, taking my phone calls, answering questions, recording Facebook Lives, educating people. Like I did all that from the comfort of my grass, right? So to me, like those freedoms are really, really paramount and important to me.
Yeah, we talk about life-work balance, and I've always had a challenge with the word balance, because it seems like a tightrope that someone has to balance something. Maybe it's the relationship that I have with the words, but I always like the word integrated, where we can have all of those things together. I know this from my own life, where I was working really hard and I was quite successful, both on the physical realm when I was a national champion, and then in the business realm. But, I found myself on the other side getting burnt out and, feeling that my emotional health or my mental health I needed to work on. And, utilizing tools and instruments the way that you're describing, and really becoming more and more aware of it and more present to it. And of course, we learn every day as high performers. It makes it, we can still have the capacity to achieve all of those things and more with a lot less output. It's quite extraordinary, how much little we have to do and accomplish a lot more. And so, what are some of the things that you practically tell people on a daily basis? I know you give us a lot of tools, but for people that think that the mindset is something that they struggle with and that they don't know really how to align the universe, right, so they can be there, right? So are there certain things that you think could be valuable that people can get themselves into that environment?
Yeah, I'll try to explain this as best as I can with a visual representation. So, there's this whole law of attraction world out there, and I want to flip that on its side, if you will, or flip it on its head and talk about the law of creation. So your brain isn't just a receiver; it's actually a frequency generator. So one of the videos I show my clients and people that I coach is a cymatic plate. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's basically a metal plate with a speaker underneath it. And the speaker is attached to a frequency generator. So the human ear can only hear between 20 and 20,000 hertz. And that's good, because if we could hear everything, we'd be deaf. Just like if we could see all the spectrums of light, we'd be blind, right? So I'm grateful that we don't hear everything, and I'm grateful we don't see everything. But what that also means is that there's a whole world that exists that we don't have the senses to perceive. So everything in nature vibrates. Your environment, that room that you're sitting in, the room that I'm sitting in, has a vibrational frequency to it, okay, which requires my mind to hold that frequency in order. So we're literally creating this room around us, whether we like to believe it or not. So what I do is I share with people, as you have this cymatic plate, you pour a little bit of sand on it and you start increasing the frequency. And what you'll notice is as the sound becomes higher pitched, as the frequency increases, the sand predictably organizes itself in increasingly complex shapes. So as you get more frequency or higher frequency, you get higher complexity of how the sand organizes itself. And you start seeing these beautiful, seemingly unrelated but predictable patterns. So if I set the frequency to this particular frequency, every single time the sand is going to orient itself the same way. Now, you might be wondering, how is this related to mindset? Well, if everything vibrates and if complexity and frequency are related, then we have to ask ourselves, what is the highest frequency? What's vibrating at the highest frequency? Well, it must be whatever has the highest level of complexity. And the most complex structure that I can think of is the human mind. We still don't understand it. So it's vibrating at the highest frequency possible. And what we learn through this exercise is that frequency organizes matter. Frequency that I put into this plate will create a predictable organization of that sand every single time. So then that begs the question, Sachin, if it's so easy, why can't I just think all these things into reality? Well, here's the thing, you are doing that. The problem is you're constantly changing the frequency because you're so distracted. So if I take that plate and the frequency generator and I keep changing the frequency, it's going to look like a big mess. But if I keep it on a single frequency, then within a few milliseconds, the sand is going to organize itself. And as long as I keep that frequency or that thought that I'm having, then I am organizing every single molecule in the entire universe to come together to create this pattern. So we do have that capacity. I just scientifically proved it to you. And I'm sure, Adam, that you have bared witness to this, where you think of something and it happens. You think of someone and boom, there they are, right? This is happening all the time. So my wife, if I think of her and she calls me, I'm going to make sure my phone's off because this is usually what happens. If I mention her name, she calls me. So when that happened, she asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, well, I was telling you to call me."
Yeah. It happens to me and Amanda as well.
Yeah. So it's not crazy, which is what I used to say. Oh my God, that's crazy. I was just going to call you.
Yeah.
It's a capability. If we think it's crazy, we never develop it as a skill.
Yeah, it's incredible.
If we think it's a capability, we start realizing, oh, like I just did that.
Yeah, it's more alignment, right? Would you say it's more alignment?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we are frequency generators.
Yeah.
And certain people are going to be tuned into our frequency, like people that we love and care about. Our frequencies will start aligning and we'll be able to literally telepathically communicate with them.
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. What a fascinating articulation of such a complex, sophisticated, and yet simple in terms of how important it is to our life. You've done it in a phenomenal way. So we're coming into the end of our show, and I want to make sure that our audience and all of us could find you and could connect with you as well. So tell our audience where we can find you, where they can find you, connect with you, how you could also inspire them and help them be a better version of themselves, and whatever message that you want to share as well.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I mean, this has been fantastic. I really enjoyed our session together. You asked a lot of great questions, and here's what I want to leave people with. I want you to learn how to love yourself to life. And if we can all do that, we will create such a beautiful world, the world that I want my son to grow up in, where people are healthy, where they're self-actualized, they're self-realized, they are unlocking all the magic that their body has to offer them, and they're not sick and decrepit or waiting to get to that point to do something about health. You know, as far as I'm aware, you know, we get more than one chance at life. I'm a Hindu, so I believe in reincarnation, but this is the highest form that we can actualize in. So you have this, you know, three-dimensional gift, which is this beautiful body. And I want people to go to that fifth dimension where they're activating all parts of them and really realizing that they are one with the universe, right? Whether you believe in the Big Bang or if you believe in God creating this everything that we see around us, whatever you believe in, right? We all come from one source. We are quantumly entangled with everything. So Adam, you are me and I am you. I am this room. This room is part of me, right? It's such a big paradigm shift when you look at the world that way, when you look at other people that way. And I want people to even for a moment suspend all their disbelief and just live their life in accordance to that way of looking at the world. A couple of things that I'll leave people with, you know, a couple of great books that I would suggest people read. One is the Bhagavad Gita, and there's a great version by Jack Hawley. It's the Bhagavad Gita for Westerners. And then the other one is the Tao Te Ching, Tao Te Ching. And the Tao is basically a way of life. And it teaches these foundational principles on how to run your business, how to operate your life, how to be a contributing member to society. And if anyone's interested and they want to learn more about what we do, you know, I know everyone here is a high performer, so I'll give my email. You can reach me at Sachin, Sachin, at becomeproof.com. Send me any questions that you have. If I can help, I'm happy to point you in the right direction or send you the right resources that you need. You can also join one of my free programs. It's called 30 in 30. So if you go to 30in30.org, I've created a 30-day video series, short little simple emails that give you life-changing tips that will be applicable, not just temporarily, but really for the rest of your life. So I share with you those foundational principles, and really the intention behind that is to keep people out of my office and really take ownership over their health. And then if we're able to help in any capacity, if somebody wants to get to the bottom of high blood pressure, you know, cardiovascular issues, diabetes, obesity, then our clinic does amazing work with clients like that without treating those conditions, but by actually teaching people how to get healthy.
Thank you so much. It's been such a wonderful honor to share with you, learn with you, and participate in this conversation. I have so many valuable lessons that I learned just from this conversation. I'm looking forward to continue this. We're going to leave everybody the details, how to get a hold of you, how to learn more about you and your practice and your website, and connect with you as well. I'm looking forward to doing it again soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, Adam.